My boss stole my idea and made millions from it. Then the company needed my signature to survive, and he learned exactly what that theft would cost him. I spent 6 months building Project Phoenix in secret. Late nights at my desk after everyone went home, weekends in the empty office, countless hours modeling and testing and perfecting what I knew could transform our entire business model. Project Phoenix was my baby. A complete restructuring of how we handled client data integration. Instead of our clunky, outdated system that required manual input and constant oversight, I designed an automated framework that could cut processing time by 70% and reduce errors to almost zero. The financial projections were staggering. Implementation would cost about $2 million upfront, but conservative estimates showed ROI within 8 months and potential revenue increases of $50 million over 3 years. I knew it was good. I knew it could change everything. What I didn't know was that presenting it to my boss, David Morrison, would be the biggest mistake of my career. I scheduled a meeting with him on a Thursday afternoon. Brought my laptop, my documentation, my projections. I was nervous but excited. This was my shot at moving up from senior systems analyst to maybe project lead or even director level. David listened to my entire presentation. 45 minutes of detailed explanation while he nodded and took notes. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair with this smile I couldn't quite read. "This is exceptional work, Sophie," he said. "Really exceptional. You've obviously put tremendous thought into this." My heart soared. "Thank you. I think if we can get buy-in from the executive team." "Leave it with me," he interrupted. "I'll need to review the technical specifications more closely and figure out the best way to present this to leadership. Some of these concepts might be too complex for the C-suite. They need translation." I should have seen it then. The way he said, "Leave it with me," like he was doing me a favor. "I can present it myself," I offered. "I know every detail." "Sophie, you're brilliant with systems, but executive presentations require a certain level of political finesse. Let me handle this part. If it goes well, you'll get full credit for the technical execution." I left his office feeling slightly uneasy but told myself I was being paranoid. David was my boss. He had my best interests in mind. This was how things worked in corporate environments. He had to trust the chain of command. 3 weeks later, the CEO announced a company-wide meeting. Mandatory attendance for all departments. I sat in the conference center with 200 other employees, watching our CEO Marcus Chin take the stage with David beside him. "Today marks a turning point for our company," Marcus announced. "Thanks to the visionary thinking of our VP of Systems Integration, David Morrison, we're launching an initiative that will revolutionize how we do business." My stomach dropped. David came to me with a proposal so innovative, so thoroughly researched, that I knew immediately we had to move forward. Please join me in recognizing David for Project Phoenix. The room erupted in applause. David stood there smiling, shaking hands with Marcus, accepting congratulations from the board members in the front row. My Project Phoenix. My 6 months of work. My innovation. My projections, being announced as David Morrison's visionary thinking. I sat frozen in my seat while everyone around me clapped. A colleague nudged me. "Isn't that the project you were working on?" "I thought it was," I whispered. David went through a presentation, my presentation, with slides that looked suspiciously similar to the ones I'd shown him. He explained the system architecture I'd designed. He walked through the implementation timeline I'd created. He presented my financial projections as his own analysis. The only difference? My name appeared nowhere. Not in the credits. Not in the acknowledgements. Nowhere. After the meeting, I went straight to David's office. My hands were shaking with anger and disbelief. "That was my work," I said, not bothering with pleasantries. "Every single piece of that presentation was mine." David closed his office door and his expression shifted from public triumph to private warning. "Sophie, let's be very clear about something. You're a talented analyst, but you're not ready for the executive level. These ideas needed refinement, positioning, political navigation. I took your raw work and made it presentable. You took my raw work and claimed it as yours. I elevated it," he corrected coldly. "And now you have a choice. You can be a team player who understands how organizations function, or you can be someone who doesn't understand corporate dynamics and finds their career stalling permanently." The threat was crystal clear. "If you make noise about this," he continued, "you'll be labeled as difficult. As someone who doesn't understand collaboration. As someone who can't be trusted with sensitive projects. Your career here will be over, and your reputation in this industry will follow you everywhere." He smiled, but there was nothing friendly in it. "However, if you're smart, if you support Project Phoenix and help with implementation, your cooperation will be remembered. Maybe not publicly, but in ways that matter. Compensation. Opportunities. Think carefully about what you want your future to look like." I left his office and went straight to the bathroom where I locked myself in a stall and cried angry, frustrated tears. Then I dried my eyes, fixed my makeup and went back to my desk. I had a decision to make. I didn't quit. Everyone expected me to quit. My best friend Rachel cornered me at lunch the next day, insisting I had to report David to HR or leave the company entirely. "He stole your work, Sophie. This is textbook intellectual property theft. You can't let him get away with it." I'm not, I said quietly. Then what are you doing? Exactly what he wants. Being a team player. Rachel looked at me like I'd lost my mind. Maybe I had. Or maybe I was finally thinking clearly for the first time in my career. I went to David's office that afternoon. Knocked politely. Waited for permission to enter. I've thought about what you said, I told him. You're right. I don't understand executive politics. I'm better at technical execution. So I'd like to stay involved with Project Phoenix implementation. If you'll have me. The relief on his face was obvious. He'd been worried I'd fight back. That's very mature of you, Sophie. I'm glad you see the bigger picture. Of course you'll be involved. You're the best technical mind we have for this kind of work. Thank you. I'll need access to all the project files and approval chains to do this properly. Absolutely. I'll have everything sent to you by end of day. I smiled and left. Phase 1 complete. That night I started building my case. I went through every email I'd ever sent David about Project Phoenix. Every draft document. Every version of my presentation with tracked changes and timestamps. Every piece of research I'd compiled. I created a private encrypted folder and backed everything up 3 different ways. Cloud storage. External drive. Printed copies in a safe deposit box. Then I started documenting new information. Every meeting about Project Phoenix I took detailed notes with dates and times. Every decision made I tracked who made it and why. Every piece of technical work I kept logs proving I'd done it. I became the indispensable expert on Project Phoenix. The person everyone came to with questions. The one who understood every component better than anyone else because I'd literally designed every component. David loved it. He could take credit at the executive level while I did all the actual work. Perfect arrangement from his perspective. 3 months into implementation, the company announced a major partnership with Techdyne Industries. This partnership would integrate our systems with theirs, creating a unified platform serving Fortune 500 clients. The deal was worth an estimated $300 million over 5 years. Project Phoenix was the centerpiece of this partnership. Our innovative system architecture was specifically what attracted Techdyne to us. I was in the implementation meetings when Techdyne's technical team came for due diligence. They asked detailed questions about the system design. David deflected to me constantly. Sophie can walk you through the technical specifications. She's been instrumental in the execution phase. Instrumental in execution. Not origination. Not design. Just execution. The Techdyne team was impressed. Their lead architect, a woman named Jennifer Park, pulled me aside after one meeting. This is brilliant work, she said. Did you design this yourself? I hesitated, then chose my words carefully. I was deeply involved in every aspect of the technical architecture. She looked at me with knowing eyes. Like she understood exactly what I wasn't saying. Well, whoever did the core design is exceptional. This is the kind of innovation that changes industries. That conversation stuck with me. While Project Phoenix moved forward, I started doing something else. I started reading. Corporate bylaws. Partnership agreements. Contract law. Every piece of legal documentation I could access through our company portal. I became friendly with Karen in legal. Asked her theoretical questions about project ownership and intellectual property. How contracts were structured. What clauses protected individual contributors. Why the sudden interest in contract law? She asked during one of our coffee conversations. Just trying to understand the business better. If I want to move up eventually, I should know more than just technical work. He bought it. Started sharing information freely. Explaining how different agreements worked. That's when I found it. Buried in the Techdyne partnership agreement, in the technical appendices that most people never read closely. Section 8.4.2. All technical architecture documentation must be signed and warranted by the lead project architect, certifying original design and implementation oversight. Lead project architect. A title that didn't officially exist in our company, but the partnership agreement specifically required it. I dug deeper. Found the technical specifications that had been submitted to Techdyne during negotiations. At the bottom of page 47 in the project team listing, there was my name. Sophie Martinez, lead project architect. David had needed to put my name somewhere to make the technical documentation legitimate. He'd buried it in the appendices where he assumed no one would look, certainly not me. But there was. In writing. In a legally binding agreement. I made copies. Added them to my growing file. 6 months into Project Phoenix implementation, David got promoted. VP of Innovation. Corner office. Substantial raise. Public recognition as the visionary who would lead the company into the future. I got a 3% cost of living increase and a certificate of appreciation. Rachel watched it all happen and kept pushing me to do something. Sophie, this is insane. You're letting him walk all over you. I'm not, I said. I'm waiting. For what? For leverage. She didn't understand. How could she? I barely understood my own strategy. I just knew that burning bridges now would give me one moment of satisfaction and end my career. Waiting for the right moment might give me everything. I kept working. Kept documenting. Kept kept making myself absolutely essential to every aspect of Project Phoenix. When technical problems arose, I fixed them. When Techdyne had questions, I answered them. When implementation hit roadblocks, I found solutions. David took credit for all of it in executive meetings. I didn't care anymore. Every time he claimed credit without understanding the actual work, he made himself more dependent on me. More vulnerable. I was playing a long game. And I was patient. The crisis hit on a Tuesday morning. I was at my desk reviewing code when my phone buzzed with a text from Karen in legal. Conference room 3. No. Emergency. I walked into chaos. David was there looking gray. Marcus Chin, our CEO, was pacing. The head of legal, the CFO, and 3 people I didn't recognize from Techdyne's legal team. Sophie, thank God, Marcus said when he saw me. We have a situation. Techdyne's lead counsel, a sharp-looking woman in her 50s, didn't waste time with pleasantries. Ms. Martinez, our partnership agreement requires signed certification from the lead project architect before we can finalize the deal. We need your signature on these technical documents. She slid a stack of papers across the table. I flipped through them quickly. Technical specifications. Implementation timelines. System architecture documentation. All requiring certification that the design was original, properly implemented, and ready for integration. The closing is scheduled for Friday, she continued. 3 days from now. Without your signature certifying the technical work, our board won't approve the final $300 million transfer. I looked up slowly. Every eye in the room was on me. I need to review these documents thoroughly before I sign anything, I said carefully. This is certifying work that spans 18 months of development. Of course, Marcus said quickly. Take whatever time you need. But Sophie, you understand how critical this signature is. The entire partnership depends on it. I understood perfectly. The entire partnership, worth $300 million, the future of our company, David's reputation, Marcus's legacy, all depended on my signature. After 18 months of watching David take credit for my work, I was suddenly the only person who mattered. I'll need access to all the original design documentation, I said. Complete file history, email chains, meeting notes, everything related to Project Phoenix from conception through implementation. David's face went even paler. He knew exactly what I was asking for. That's all archived, he started. I don't think we need to. I do need to, I interrupted, looking directly at him. If I'm certifying this work as original and properly implemented, I need to review every piece of documentation. Complete due diligence. Surely you understand, David, given how much is at stake. The Techdyne lawyers nodded approvingly. That's exactly the level of thoroughness we expect. Ms. Martinez, you have our complete support in conducting whatever review you deem necessary. Marcus made the decision. Give her everything. Full access. Whatever she needs. I'll start my review immediately, I said. I should have a decision by Thursday afternoon. Decision? David's voice cracked slightly. Sophie, this is just a formality. You're signing off on work you've been part of for 18 months. I looked at him steadily. Then the review will be quick, won't it? The meeting ended. Everyone filed out except Marcus, who asked me to stay behind. Sophie, I need to understand something. Is there any reason you wouldn't sign these documents? This was my moment. I could play it safe. Sign the papers. Let everything continue as it had been. Keep my head down and my career intact. Or I could bet everything. Marcus, before I sign anything, I think we need to have a very honest conversation about Project Phoenix. About where it came from. About who actually designed it. His expression shifted. What are you saying? I pulled out my laptop. Opened my encrypted folder. I'm saying that I have documentation. Extensive documentation. Showing the complete development of Project Phoenix. Every email. Every draft. Every version. All time-stamped and backed up in multiple locations. I turned the laptop to face him. Let him see the folder structure. The hundreds of files. The dates showing work that began 6 months before David ever claimed to have conceived the project. I brought this idea to David 18 months ago. I showed him everything I'd developed. He told me he'd help present it to leadership. Instead, he presented it as his own work. Marcus sat down slowly, his face unreadable. I have proof of everything, I continued. Original design documents. Email trails. Meeting notes. Technical specifications with my digital signature and timestamps. I even have the draft presentation I showed David, complete with metadata showing creation dates. I paused. Let it sink in. So when you ask if there's any reason I wouldn't sign those documents, Marcus, yes. There are several reasons. The primary one being that I'm being asked to certify work as properly attributed when we both know that's not true. The silence stretched for a long moment. What do you want, Sophie? I pulled out a folder. Physical paper. Printed and organized. I slid it across the table. I want 3 things. First, public acknowledgement that Project Phoenix originated from my design work. Not buried in footnotes. Real acknowledgement. Second, I want the title of VP of Technical Innovation and a seat at the executive table. Third, I want a 20% equity stake in all profits generated specifically from Project Phoenix and its derivatives. Marcus looked at the documentation in front of him, flipped through pages, saw the evidence laid out clearly and irrefutably. If I don't agree, then I don't sign. The Techdyne deal falls through. $300 million disappears. The partnership your company desperately needs doesn't happen. And eventually, when people ask why, the truth about Project Phoenix comes out anyway. Except instead of handling it quietly now, it becomes a public scandal about executive misconduct. You'd destroy the company to get revenge? I'd protect my work, I corrected. I spent 6 months creating something revolutionary. David stole it. I've spent 18 more months watching him profit from theft while making myself indispensable to the actual implementation. I'm not destroying anything, Marcus. I'm finally claiming what was always mine. He closed the folder, looked at me for a long time. Give me until tomorrow morning. I didn't sleep that night. Kept thinking about all the ways this could go wrong. They could fire me. They could try to legally challenge my documentation. They could find some loophole or technicality. But they needed my signature. And they needed it in 3 days. Marcus called me at 7 a.m. my office. Now. I walked in to find David already there, sitting in the guest chair looking destroyed. Marcus stood behind his desk, his expression grim. I spent all night reviewing your documentation, Marcus said without preamble. I also had our legal team review it. And I interviewed several people about the timeline of Project Phoenix development. He paused. Looked at David with something like disgust. David, you're fired. Effective immediately. Gross misconduct. Intellectual property theft. Breach of trust. Security will escort you out within the hour. You'll receive the minimum severance required by your contract and nothing more. And if you ever speak publicly about this company or Project Phoenix, we will pursue legal action for fraud. David opened his mouth, closed it. He looked at me once, his expression a mixture of hatred and defeat, then left without a word. Marcus turned to me. Sophie, I owe you an apology. As CEO, it's my responsibility to foster a culture where innovation is properly recognized and protected. I failed you. The company failed you. For that, I'm deeply sorry. I nodded, not trusting myself to speak yet. I've reviewed your requests. Here's what I can offer. First, we'll make a public announcement, internal and external, crediting you as the original architect of Project Phoenix. We'll correct the record completely. Second, effective today, you're promoted to VP of Technical Innovation. You'll report directly to me. Your compensation package will be commensurate with executive level, including stock options and full benefits. Third, the equity stake is complicated. 20% of Project Phoenix profits in perpetuity is significant. Our lawyers are drafting an agreement that gives you 15% of profits from Project Phoenix and direct derivatives for the next 7 years, with options to renegotiate at that point. 15%? I said. It's worth more than you think, he replied. Conservative estimates put Project Phoenix revenue at $200 million over the next 5 years. 15% of that is $30 million. Plus your VP salary and stock options. Plus whatever you accomplish in your new role. The numbers were staggering. $30 million. For work that David had tried to steal and I'd almost let him get away with. One condition, Marcus added. You sign the Techdyne documents. Today. We need this partnership, Sophie. It's crucial for the company's future. For everyone's future. I thought about it for exactly 3 seconds. I'll sign. But I want the promotion and equity agreements in writing first. Signed by you and the board. Already done. Legal worked through the night. He slid a contract across the desk. Everything is here. Have your own lawyer review it if you want, but I need an answer by end of business today. I took the contract. Read every word. It was all there. Everything I'd asked for and more. I'll sign, I said. Both documents. Today. The relief on Marcus's face was obvious. Thank you. And Sophie? I meant what I said. We failed you. But from now on you have a seat at the table where these decisions are made. Use it. The company announcement went out that afternoon. A carefully worded email explaining that David Morrison was no longer with the company, that Project Phoenix had originated from my technical design work, and that I was being promoted to VP of Technical Innovation in recognition of my contributions. My phone exploded. Colleagues congratulating me. Industry contacts reaching out. Rachel calling to scream with joy. The Techdyne deal closed on Friday as scheduled. I signed the technical certification documents. Their legal team thanked me profusely for my thoroughness. The $300 million partnership went through. 6 months later, I'm sitting in my new corner office reviewing proposals from my team. I have direct reports now. Budget authority. Decision-making power. Project Phoenix is exceeding all projections. Revenue is already tracking 20% higher than conservative estimates. My 15% keeps looking better and better. I bought a house. Paid off my student loans. Started investing. David Morrison? I heard he's working for a mid-sized firm in a senior analyst role. No executive position. No corner office. No stolen glory. I don't feel sorry for him. People ask me sometimes if I was scared during those negotiations, if I worried about risking everything. The truth, I was terrified, but I was also done being invisible. Sometimes the highest stakes negotiation is the one they don't know you're having. I spent 18 months preparing for one conversation, documenting everything, making myself indispensable, learning every legal angle. And when the moment came, I didn't hesitate. Don't get mad. Get everything. Because in the end, they'll always need your signature on something that matters. Make sure they earn it. Thanks for sticking with me through this story. It's been one hell of a journey from stolen idea to corner office. If you made it to the end, drop a comment. Have you ever had someone take credit for your work? What did you do about it? Until next time, remember. Document everything, be patient, and never sign anything until you've negotiated your worth.